what you do about schooling in a radical way.
Okay, Alan, I told you some time ago I wrote a paper on this subject, and I did it on the basis that education is being dumbed down. I think it's generally accepted by now that it's being dumbed down. In fact, you and I got copies of the HSC, a recent HSC, and we got a copy of a 1969 paper as well, and we compared the two, and there's just chalk and cheese. So that's a concern, because education is the basis of the wealth of the nation. There's no other way of putting it. If we don't educate our kids to the highest of standards, our country will suffer income-wise as a result. So my radical plan for education was to essentially scrap schools, scrap the classes we know it, and go over to distance learning, which involved having the children study largely at home, but not entirely, but largely at home, and to do courses that they elect to do, and they are overseen by a tutor. We would use the camera on the computer to recognise the student so that we know his mother's not doing the work for him, so we can get around that issue. And on top of that, even more radically, the state would pay the student per subject that they pass, and the payment would be dependent upon the grades the student got. So the better the grade, the better the payment. Now, whether that payment goes to the child or whether that payment goes to the parents is another matter. But it's got to be a substantial amount of money, not a joke prize. And so we pay children to do schoolwork. We pay people to go to work. Why shouldn't we pay students to do work themselves? Okay, and so distance learning could be promoted much more heavily than it is. The state could sell off the property that schools exist on at the moment, as I jokingly said, to property developers to put even more blocks of flats on. And these are the major changes that I recommended. I went on as well in that paper, as I recall, to say that parole for prisoners could be based on education, that they will get out sooner the more education they get. So they would be encouraged to study certain subjects, and if they're good students, they get out. They get their sentences reduced. So that was basically what the education thing was. I do appreciate that my scheme doesn't allow for socialisation of children, and that's very important, and that would have to be addressed in some other way, some novel way, whether they get together at the swimming pool or the local park, and there's a teacher there to look after them. I don't know, but it's not an insurmountable problem.